Hello, magical experimenters. This is Taylor Ellwood here with Magical Experiments, and today we're talking about how to connect with the spiral of time. And this was actually prompted by a voicemail I got today from the person that I'm involved with, and it was interesting because she made the point that we connect. And she's like, we've connected across the spiral of time. And it was funny because when I met this person, there was just this odd familiarity about her, and I was like, "Why is that the case? How did this happen?" And like one of the first times that I met with her, I there was an empty chair, and I knew she was going to sit there, and I wanted to hold my hand out to her in order to hold her hand. I didn't because I was like, I don't know this person. Like, what am I doing? But it was an interesting experience because there was this sense of familiarity and connection that I couldn't quite explain. And the thing is as a space-time magician, I mean, I'm very much in tune with the realities of space and time. There are certain people that I'll meet where I just know those people and I were meant to meet. We were meant to connect across space and time. And that there were like the meeting between us was inevitable. I don't feel that way about everybody. I want to be very clear about that because it's not something that's always evident to me. But there are certain people that you just know that you are going to meet them at some point, that the intersections of space and time were going to come together, or the spiral of time. When I talk about the spiral of time, I'm really talking about the fact that we treat time as a line like this, right? And past, present, future. But actually, time is more like a spiral where it's just kind of coming around and around and around. And you have your point here, and then you have your point here and your point here, where that spiral kind of comes back around. And those points are reverberations through time, but they're not quite the same. And it's worth recognizing really that this gives us a rhythmic perspective of time as opposed to a linear perspective of time. Our linear notions of time are very limiting, but if we apply a model such as the spiral of time, then what we do is we start to move out of the strict linear notions of time toward a more nonlinear model, but we still retain some aspects of it. The spiral of time is really handy as a tool magically because it helps us to understand that here's these moments of synchronicity, these moments of connection where I'm connecting with this person, or I'm connecting with this event, or I'm connecting with X, Y, and Z, and this is coming together because this is how this is how the experience was meant to happen. And it's kind of it's an intersection of space and time that can't be fully explained, but the spiral gives us a model to make sense of it. And what I find with space-time magic work, and this is just from based on experience, is that the easiest way to work with it is to have specific models that you can relate to. Because otherwise, it can be a bit maddening when you have experiences where space and time just seems to come together in ways that you couldn't quite understand. Now, if you're new to this channel, I want to invite you to subscribe. Click the subscribe button and then click the notification bell that lets you know. And I also would invite you to check out some of the links below, um, other ways that you can connect with me as well as my services. So let's get back to the video. So when I look at the spiral, when I look at time and how to connect with the spiral of time, what I try to do is I start looking for the specific patterns that can make it more easy to connect. And one such example of a pattern would be the pattern of the seasons, right? Each year we experience the seasons. Now, depending on where you are in the world, your experience of the seasons may be different from mine. Like here in Oregon, I would say that my experience of the season is you have spring and or summer and winter basically is how I kind of look at it. It's two seasons. You have a period where it's really wet and cold through a good part of the year, and then you have a period where it's hot and warm, or hot and dry. And Some people would say, "Well, we've got fall and we got winter and all that," but I just kind of see it as like the wet season and the dry season because that seems to be pretty accurate. But there is a spiral effect going on because as you live in the seasons, you're experiencing time from a very rhythmic perspective with the turning of the seasons. You can also apply this with like the moon. So, you have the full moon and the new moon, and you have the half moon and quarter moon. These are rhythmic cycles that we get to experience. We take them for granted, but they are nonetheless there. And if we take the time to chart our lives on the basis of where the moon is and what is happening with the moon, then we end up discovering the way that the moon can influence our lives, but it starts to make us aware of time as well, and we can experience and tap into this spiral perspective where it's like, okay, here I was in the full moon here, and now here I am, and here's the next full moon, and I'm here, and then maybe I come back down and I'm here. And what this does is it also allows us to connect with the past and future because we start to see that we know there's going to be a point in time where we're going to connect across an iterative point of contact. So I've been at this full moon. I've been at this full moon. I've been at this full moon. I've been at this new moon. I've been at this new moon. I've been at this new moon. And each of them is a point of contact that we can establish with ourselves, past and future. So if I know that I'm going to be at those different points of time, I can connect with the different versions of myself and actually work with those different versions in a very distinct and powerful way. So, I've actually done this multiple times in my life where I've connected very purposely with a past version of myself, or a future version, or a side version of myself, a version from a different timeline variation. Because the thing is that we also consider that these rhythms of time not don't just move in a, like a straightforward manner, but that they go back and forth, but that they also go sideways. Then we can connect with the version of time within ourselves that is on a separate stream of consciousness, a separate timeline, but nonetheless is still accessible because who I am in any given time stream is still nonetheless connected to the prime core identity of myself. And the rhythm of time allows me to connect with that. Now, you might say, okay, that's great, Taylor, but how do you do it? I mean, that's, very sounds very magical and amazing, but how do we actually do this? Well, the way that I like to approach these things is, first of all, as I said, recognizing the patterns that are already there in your life and using them to create that spiral effect. But what I'll also do then is I will sometimes, like on a piece of paper, I'll actually draw the spiral. And what I'll do then is I'll map out where I am in the current moment, and then where I was in a previous moment, and where I might be in a future moment. And then I'll do a meditation where I connect with the different versions of myself and I draw upon the best possible version for the situation that I'm dealing with and draw upon the experiences. And again, sometimes that's a past version, sometimes it's a future version, sometimes it's a side version. Either way, those versions are available to access. Now, if you're curious about this, I would recommend checking out my series of books called How Space-Time Magic Works, which are available on Amazon and other sites, because I actually have different exercises in there that you can work with. And I also have a few classes as well you can check out. But the important thing you got to remember about space-time magic is that, in a very real sense, what makes it work so well is our ability to imagine and our ability to use memory. Memory and imagination are one and the same thing, actually. And so when we access the spiral of time, we're accessing it through our ability to imagine where we could be or remember where we were. And every time we remember something, we're rewriting that memory. So we're literally rewriting and remembering that experience, but changing the experience in small, subtle ways. And sometimes very overt ways. We can actually take an experience that was negative and rewrite it with a new memory. We can change the experience in other ways. So coming back to the original topic, it made me think then, about this person that I've run into, and this connection, and how there's this familiarity. And then I'm like, I can access that. I can access it through meditation. I can access it through divination or scrying or other techniques. In fact, I've been developing some new techniques for space-time magic around scrying and divination, for that kind of purpose, and I've found it to be very relevant. It's helped me to connect across time to the very specific moments that make sense and work for me, and allow me to tap into the present or the future or the past in a significant way, and bring and with the present, an alternate present, but bring it all to the point of consciousness and clarity where I'm at now, and then being able to rewrite it or remake it and putting it back into its respective place, but then watching as it ripples into the present and changes the present for me as well. I like to joke sometimes that I step into new timelines, but it's true. There will be a timeline that I'll be in, and then something will change because I'll have met someone or an event will have occurred or whatever, and I will step into a different timeline. And that timeline will be, its own significant power and presence. And I'll be in that timeline. And then at a certain point, something else will happen, and I'll step into another timeline. So I find that all of these points of consciousness and awareness come through in very big ways. And if we're open to them, they can transform our lives. And the way that we make ourselves open is that we step outside of the linear notions of time. We use magical techniques such as where I describe, like creating a spiral and then charting out where you are. Or another one I like to use is the web of time, and connecting with the web of space and time, and working with that for similar purposes. So I share that with you today as food for thought for how you might connect with some of this stuff and how you might apply it to your own life. And I think that as you begin to delve more into space-time magic, that's when you start to find more and more of these synchronicities and connections with people. And that in and of itself can be a really powerful way to move yourself forward, because you start to encounter the echoes of future time and past time merging into present time and opening the path for you to manifest whatever it is you're seeking to manifest. And this is actually one of my secrets for manifesting a lot of the things that have come my way in my life, where I've taken the past and I've taken the future and I've merged it into the future, or merged it into the present, and then recreated the timeline with the new changes that I basically imagined and brought into reality. All right, that's it for today. I just wanted to share that with you. And again, if you're curious about the content here that I'm talking about, check out my Space Time Magic books. Check out some of my classes. All of this is stuff that could be really helpful for you. And otherwise, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you guys again soon.